Hello everyone, let me introduce you to Yoko the Yoke by VirtualFly. VirtualFly is a company based in Barcelona, Spain, and they've been producing professional full-motion flight simulators and flight control hardware since 2004, and one of their most famous creations being Yoko the Yoke. Now originally this yoke was not created with flight simulation in mind. The yoke was designed to pilot unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs. This yoke is also a part of their basic and advanced flight training devices certified by the Federal Aviation Administration. So whether you're a business or consumer looking to build a flight simulator, you know your flight controls are rated to simulate the real thing very closely. For several years I've had my eye on this yoke, but I just couldn't justify the cost. I've been happy with my Saitek yoke that I've used for the last 5 years, but when VirtualFly approached me to do a video review, and in return I get to keep the yoke, I would have been an idiot to turn that opportunity down. Now the yoke came floating securely between pieces of foam. The box also includes instructions and a small box with the mounting hardware and USB cable. The first thing you're going to notice with the Yoko is that it's heavy, weighing in at nearly 20 pounds or 9 kilograms. Everything about this yoke is pretty solid. Mainly because this yoke is made up of 90% metal, with the 6 provided buttons being made of plastic. The length comes out to about 23 inches, a height of 7 inches, and a width of 12 inches. The Yoko easily mounts to your desk with a mounting bracket that slides into the front of the yoke, followed by screwing a knob on the bottom that clamps the yoke to the desk. The other option is the 4 mounting holes on the bottom of the yoke, but that requires drilling through whatever surface you plan to keep the yoke on. Now the bracket holds the yoke in place for the most part. The only time it moved was during the calibration, which is when you have to apply full pressure. The back of the yoke would lift up, but generally you won't be applying that kind of pressure during flight. The movements you'll be doing are going to be very gentle. Once the Yoko is mounted, you will plug the single USB cord into the back of the yoke, and this is actually a nice quality USB cord too, it's not a cheap one. I like how they went with a removable cord rather than one that's built into the housing too. One thing that I would have liked to have seen more of is a few USB ports. I'm coming from a Saitek that had a few extra ones, so you can plug your throttle or radio stack, whatever you have in. When I first gripped the yoke, I instantly noticed how comfortable it feels. With the finger grooves added to the grip, it forms really nicely to your hands. On the left and right side, you have a comfortable place to rest your thumb. And when moving the switches, you'll hear an audible click sound, so it's a little bit noisy. These switches are a little stiff. I found trimming down fine, but trimming up can be a little uncomfortable with the thin plastic edge pressing into your thumb. The other buttons on the back are very soft, and they kind of remind me of your typical arcade buttons. These buttons are for the most part silent when they're pushed. Once plugged in, the yoke is instantly recognized by Windows and quickly installs the driver on its own. I was greeted with the same ease of setup with loading X-Plane 11 for the first time. X-Plane 11 also notices the new hardware and asks if you would like to calibrate. At this time, I also want to mention that the Yoko is also compatible with Prepared and Microsoft Flight Simulator. Once I calibrated the axes and mapped my buttons, I was ready to go. I ended up using the left switch for my trim, the red button for the mic, and the black button on the right I used for toga. Some people like to use it for the autopilot as well. The switch on the right I haven't mapped, but you can use that for other trims or changing camera views. It's really up to you. When using this yoke, it has a very smooth, fluid-like feeling. It's got 60 degrees of rotation and 5.7 inches of travel distance with no dead zone. It's a yoke that requires a little bit of strength to move, and you'll notice the further you pull back, the more the yoke fights you to go back to the center position. The movements in the sim, they're a lot more refined and smooth. It's one of those things that you're just going to have to feel this to truly appreciate how it feels. If I was building a full training sim, this is probably the kind of quality I would want to go with if I was going to go to all that trouble. And it just brings you one step closer to the real feeling of what it's like to fly, when this is the main instrument that you're going to be touching during the flight. Now for this approach, I added a little bit of wind so we have something to fight, and you can see here it doesn't take much with the movements. And this is something with my old yoke, to where you would move the yoke a few degrees and you would still get no input in the sim. With this, you do get that input, and it allows you to be a lot more gentle with the controls, which is the way you would actually want to do it if you were trying to fly in real life. Now this is a
V1
Zibo
rotate.
Mod 737 taking off. You can see the rotate, not much to get it up in the air.
Positive rate.
And then once in the air, we'll start using the trim, and you can hear the click. It's really not too bad. If you're live streaming or something, depending on your mic, it might come through.
400.
But it's not too bothersome.
$1,000.
We'll just hand fly. We have a turn coming up here that you can see a little more. Right now we're just fighting against some wind. We're just chasing the flight director at the moment with the ailerons and the trim. And like I said, this is just one of those things that I can try to describe to you how it feels, and not being a regular pilot myself, you know, trying to put it into words how it feels with real life, I'm not too sure. All I know is when you hold this thing, it does not feel like a toy. After going back to the Saitek now, there's an incredible difference that now I notice because I've spent time with the Yoko. And here we're leveling out at 5,000 feet, so this has been a good route to show a nice mix of turns and trimming down to level off. And now I'll show you an approach. We're about to come over the threshold.
Approaching minimums. 100. Minimum 50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
And we'll hold it back for the flare. And touchdown. Very, very nice feeling yoke.
Five 5,000 feet remaining.
80 knots.
4,000 remaining.
Now this yoke, after shipping and taxes, is going to run you about $1,000. Now this is a yoke that if you can afford it, I would definitely recommend getting it. Do you need it to have a fun and accurate flight sim experience? No, you can get the job done with a $20 flight stick and still have an accurate and fun time flight simming. The difference is just in the quality and the precision. It's in the high-end market, so if that's the market you're in, then you might want to give this yoke a try. This year, it'll probably be on display in Orlando at Flight Sim Expo or at the now 2-day Cosford event in England. Virtual Fly isn't there. Usually somebody or some developer or any company putting a flight sim on showcase, sometimes they're using a Yoko, so you might get to try it that way. But I definitely recommend trying it if you can. But alright everyone, that's going to do it for our review of Yoko the Yoke. I hope this helps you make up your mind on if this is a yoke you'd like to look into and purchase. It is great. I had a lot of fun trying it out, and this is going to be a yoke I will be using for years and years to come.